Dillian the Body Snatcher right here. It's a champ. Big up to Sporting Icon. Subscribe. Otherwise, I might pay you guys a visit.
Okay, so Triple D, Daniel Dynamite Dubois. He defeated Trevor Bryan last night in Miami, Florida to become the WBA regular World Heavyweight Champion. So yes, Great Britain has a new World Champion. So before we get into, and there's quite a bit to talk about in this video, for those of you who want to say, well, Dan Dubois is not really a world champion, well, actually, the belt that he currently holds is the one with the lineage. That's the one that Muhammad Ali, etc. once held. The super champion that Oleksandr Usyk currently holds, that is the one that was elevated to Vladimir Klitschko. So it depends on how you look at it, because obviously Klitschko, he defeated Povetkin to unify or consolidate the super and the regular. So it really does depend on how you look at it, I suppose. But to say that Dan Dubois is not a world champion, then you have to say David Haye isn't or wasn't. You have to say Povetkin wasn't. You have to say Manuel Char wasn't, and Lucas Brown wasn't, and Chagayev wasn't, and whatever else. You can look at the other weight divisions. Gervonta Davis isn't world champion. Lee Wood isn't world champion. So it really depends on how you look at it. Now, Dan Dubois defeating Trevor Bryan, very, very predictable result. We all knew that was going to happen. So no shock upset. It really isn't. Now, I know some people beforehand were saying, but Trevor Bryan, he's brought in Larry Holmes. Larry Holmes has the best jab in the heavyweight history. Okay, but like I always say, just because one person can do it doesn't mean you can teach it. Either you know how to do it or you don't. Okay, so Larry Holmes being in the team of Trevor Bryan didn't mean that he's going to take the soul of the abilities of Larry Holmes and he will get a Larry Holmes jab. It doesn't work that way. Okay, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. So what next for Dan Dubois? Now, I did a video just over a year ago. Many of you will have seen that video. I mean, it done quite good views actually, where I said that Dan Dubois will be mandated to fight Anthony Joshua. Now, understandably, and I don't blame anybody, a lot of you were saying, Sporting Icon don't know what he's talking about. He's living in a fantasy land. That's never going to happen. Now, I did that video because I know the landscape of boxing. Whether you agree with my thoughts and my opinions on certain situations and certain fighters is irrelevant. I do know boxing. I know the landscape of it. I knew this moment was going to happen. Now, granted, at the time, Dan Dubois, he just came off a loss to Joe Joyce. Anthony Joshua was still champion. Of course, now he's not. But he does have that rematch with Oleksandr Usyk coming up. So it wasn't necessarily that I was predicting what was going to happen. And it didn't really matter that I was talking about Joshua. It's whoever the WBA super champion is. That was the point of it. Now, hopefully Joshua, and I believe Joshua, will get revenge on Oleksandr Usyk in the next couple of months. All going well, of course. Now, Dan Dubois has now been mandated to fight the winner of Joshua and Usyk. And I know some people back then, and even quite recently as well, have said, well, how did I know that they were going to do that? Because it was pretty obvious. I knew that the WBA were looking to consolidate the WBA regular title and the super champion. And of course, we knew that the WBA was up next. The WBO has only just been completed, which was Oleksandr Usyk. So next in line is the WBA. Then it'll be the IBF, then back around to the WBO again. So Joe Joyce being the WBO mandatory, he's going to have to wait for the WBA and the IBF to be fulfilled first. I've been saying this for quite some time. Now, the reason why I knew it's going to be Daniel Dubois is because when it was announced that he was going to be fighting Bogdan Dinu, in that very split second, in that moment, I knew what was going to happen. Many of you did as well, which is why I always say to you, make sure you watch. Every time I upload the rankings videos, watch them. If you watch them regularly enough, you start to see patterns. You start to see the landscape open up and you see what certain fights are going to happen, which is how I knew about this particular situation. It's not rocket science. It's not like I'm Nostradamus. I just knew it. And a lot of you did too. Now, Dan Dubois, he has the option now to wait around. He can go fight the winner of Joshua and Usyk. But it's a risky move, waiting around, because firstly, you're making yourself inactive. Secondly, maybe the winner of that fight could end up fighting Tyson Fury for undisputed. So therefore, you're going to be waiting even longer. So it's a risk to wait for that one, but it's possible maybe Tyson Fury doesn't want the winner of Joshua Usyk. Maybe he is actually going to retire. I don't personally think so, but you never know. All right. But again, if he doesn't take a voluntary defense and he just sits on his belt, then he's going to have to fight the winner of his mandatory, Dan Dubois' mandatory, which is going to be the winner of Hughie Fury and Michael Hunter. So either way, if he doesn't fight anybody, then he's going to be mandated to fight either Hughie Fury and Michael Hunter or Joshua and Usyk. That's the situation for Dan Dubois. So if the winner of Joshua Usyk does fight for undisputed, then it'll be the winner of Hughie Fury and Michael Hunter, if that makes sense. But in the meantime, because those two fights are not completed yet, Dan Dubois, he does have time for a voluntary defense, but he's going to have to be pretty quick with it. He's going to have to do this in the next 8 or 9 weeks, you would imagine. Now, Dan Dubois, straight after the fight, he said that he'd like to fight a Joseph Parker. Now, that's going to have its own issues, you would think, because obviously Joseph Parker, for those of you who don't know, just signed an exclusive deal with Sky Sports and Boxer yesterday. So that's going to make it a little bit complicated. Frank Warren, we know, is a very, very bitter person. Dan Dubois is a Frank Warren fighter. He's going to be very bitter because quite clearly the fight between Joseph Parker and Joe Joyce is now off. Did Joseph Parker duck Joe Joyce? Well, that's one way of looking at it. I'm not going to say yes he did. I'm saying that's one way of looking at it, okay? Frank Warren is not going to make the fight between Joe Joyce and Joseph Parker knowing that there's a cross-promotion. He will look at it as cross-contamination. It's a risk. It is a risk. So Joe Joyce and Joseph Parker probably ain't going to happen, much like Dan Dubois and Joseph Parker ain't going to happen now. But Dan Dubois and his coach Shane McGuigan did mention Dillian Whyte. Now, Dillian Whyte is a free agent. For those of you who think that he signed with Matchroom or whatever, no, he's not. He's always been a free agent. He's always done a fight-by-fight basis with Matchroom. So he's not actually signed to Matchroom. So there is an option for Daniel Dubois. It's a big fight. It's a fight that if they put that on pay-per-view, people will watch it. They will. At the same time, maybe Frank Warren may use that as an opportunity to get Dillian Whyte under some form of contract, maybe offer him a 2 or 3 fight deal. With being that you sign with us, you get to have Daniel Dubois for that world title. Again, reason being, and it's pretty logical, if Dillian Whyte was to defeat Daniel Dubois, it's irrelevant whether or not he will or won't right now, our opinions, but if he does, then that title stays within Queensberry. So don't be surprised if something like that was to happen. But for that to happen also, Dillian Whyte has to get himself ranked in the WBA. Does that mean he's got to go fight someone and get a win? No, not at all. Okay, because he's got the resume already. All he's got to start doing now is paying the WBA sanctioning fees. Pay that sanction fee for the first time, he'll be automatically ranked somewhere within the top 15. Dan Dubois can only defend that belt against somebody in the top 15 of the WBA. To go back to Joseph Parker, he's currently ranked number 11. So there could have been an option had Joseph Parker had decided to continue with Frank Warren or sign with Frank Warren. But Dillian Whyte is not ranked in the top 15. But if he pays sanction fee, he will be. It doesn't really matter whereabouts in the top 15. Then Dan Dubois can defend that belt against Dillian Whyte. Other than that, I mean, I would imagine that Frank Warren will probably look at somebody in the top 15, whomever that may be. Okay, it could be anybody right now. And there's some people in the top 15 who shouldn't even be there, let's be honest. So that's pretty much the landscape of the WBA and where Dan Dubois fits in right now. So he does have options. He can have a voluntary right now, or he can sit around and hope that the Joshua Usyk winner fights him next and does not fight for the undisputed. But that's kind of unlikely at this stage, especially if Tyson Fury is willing to fight the winner for undisputed. If not, then he's going to have to fight the winner of Hughie Fury and Michael Hunter. Yes, that fight is going to be on Sky Sports. It's a boxer show. Is that going to have some kind of issues? Well, does it really matter? Because it's going to be ordered. It's already ordered. So then it's going to have to go to a purse bid if they can't work out a deal. Much like Dan Dubois with Joshua and Usyk. That would have to go to a purse bid if they can't agree terms, if they don't go for undisputed. So that's the landscape. So just a quick recap. Dubois can have a voluntary next, as long as it's somebody in the top 15, or he can wait around and hope that the winner of Joshua Usyk fights him, or he's going to be mandated to fight the winner of Hughie Fury and Michael Hunter. Now you're up to speed. Now go binge watch all the ranking videos, especially the WBA, over like the last year or so. Then you'll be fully up to speed, and then you'll see the landscape of boxing the same way that me and others do. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video.